Sorry for the hyperbolic title, but I wanted to catch your attention. So, just for the record, in spite of my rather fetching Gilets Jaunes, I've not actually been torching any cars, and I'm not, in fact, off to chokey just yet. But it has occurred to me lately that if I have any moral courage whatsoever, being sent to prison is something that I'm likely to have to consider at some point in the future. Malcolm X once said, "You get what you want by letting your enemies know you'll do anything to get it." Now, if that's so, and to me it really does have the ring of truth about it, then going to prison is something that we may all need to consider. Am I prepared to go to prison to get what I want? Am I prepared to go to prison for an idea? Would I willingly sacrifice myself for a principle? I've heard it said that a decent society is only possible when men are prepared to plant trees, the shade of which they will never enjoy themselves. So specifically, am I prepared to put my neck on the line, go to prison and be denied the thing that I want in order for others to have it instead? Am I strong enough for that? Well, in truth, I don't know. Who does? Nelson Mandela, Tommy Robinson, Edward Snowden, Kevin Crehan, Count Dankula. Mandela did for 26 years. Tommy has, although for a considerably shorter time. Ed Snowden has stated that he's prepared to submit to trial in open court, but the US government has promised only that they will not torture him. So he is understandably choosing to prefer exile, even in Russia, to a secret trial followed by 40 years solitary confinement in a supermax prison. Crehan, in the end, had a life sentence, although to be fair, he probably wasn't expecting 12 months inside for leaving a bacon sandwich outside a mosque, and with the good Count continuing to refuse to pay an £800 fine for making a joke, it remains to be seen how he is going to hold up. But this is getting serious, and it's only going to get more serious. It was a fairly innocuous thing that got me thinking like this. A friend of mine told me that he had heard on the news that cash points, or ATMs, are disappearing at a rate of 250 a month. Now that's a pain in the arse, to be sure, particularly for someone like me who likes to use cash. But it's hardly the sky falling in. But it's the direction of travel that is so disconcerting. It's control. They're removing cash points because they don't want us to use cash. They want us to use debit and credit cards and bank transfers and mobile phone apps because they want a record. They want to know absolutely everything about us, without exception, including what we spend our money on. They think it's their business. It isn't. If we're not paying the right amount of tax, and they have probable cause, how quaint that notion is beginning to sound, to suspect that, then, and only then, is it their business. And anyway, as anybody with half a brain cell knows, it's not about tax evasion. It's about control. I was reading the paper the other day and there was a story about how Tesla cars in China are informing the Chinese government of their owners' whereabouts. Apparently that's mandatory if you want to sell cars in China. And who doesn't want to sell cars in China? Nobody. And how long before the technology is embedded so deep in the car's architecture that it would be nigh on impossible to disable it in other markets. And then why bother? After all, it will be cheaper to sell the same car everywhere else as it is in China. In China, as elsewhere, it's not about parking tickets and speeding fines, although that will be a bonus to all totalitarian governments, which in the long run will be all governments. It's about control. If you're familiar with this channel, you know that surveillance, especially government surveillance, is my particular bête noire. It is my dragon, my leviathan, my unknown beast to be confronted. It's an uphill struggle, to say the very least. But the reason it's such a struggle is because there is a culture in government, an assumption that all information, all data, belongs to the state. Now, this is an assumption unfounded in any morality. They take it because they can. They watch us because they can. They spy on us because they think we can't stop them, because we won't stop them. And most crucially of all, because we can't be bothered to stop them. Data collection and surveillance is not about tackling crime and terrorism and paedophiles. It's about control. We need to change this. We need to start valuing the things that really matter. Things a bit more important than convenience. And why don't we? Why is it that so many of us seem so unconcerned with the idea of freedom and liberty? Why? Because we think we have it. A CCTV camera doesn't stop us from walking down a street. And if our governments were utterly benign and equally utterly foolproof in keeping our data safe, then it wouldn't be a problem. But they aren't benign, and they're certainly not foolproof. They're menacing, threatening, and sinister, with a healthy dose of incompetence thrown in, and are seeking one thing, and one thing only: control. It's always, always, always about control. One of my regular contributors to the comments section, one Ganath Darkanen, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, sir, described freedom's worth thus. He says that it's worth fighting for, worth killing for, worth dying for, and every bit worth going straight to hell for. Now that's a guy I want on my team. Janis Joplin may have said, "Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose," which seemed to devalue it somewhat. But then in the very next line says, "Nothing don't mean nothing, hun, if it ain't free." But why don't people value it? I can't understand it. Even as a theoretical exercise, it surely must be better to be free than not to be, surely. Even if you do fuck all for it, even if you do fuck all with it. I mean, what does it say about someone when they acknowledge that they're not free? It's infantilizing not to be free. Children are not free because you can't be free until you're grown. Being free means being out there in the world with no one to kiss you better when you scraped your knee. Being free means being an adult. If you say you're not free, you're basically saying that you're a big fucking baby. And being free, as Jordan Peterson has pointed out, doesn't mean having no responsibility. Children have no responsibility. A man can carry his burden and still be free. In fact, it probably comes as part of the package. There's no contradiction to say that freedom comes with responsibility. Children don't know this. Grown-ups do. Peterson also says that the fundamental nature of Western hierarchies is competence, which is why Western societies are better than all the others. But he also says that all hierarchies tend towards tyranny, and that it is only the complex series of checks and balances in Western societies that keep them competent and not tyrannical. But I am wondering if we are witnessing our societies becoming less competent and more tyrannical. It seems as if those checks and balances that have kept our societies functioning so well for so long, despite the severe strains and setbacks that they have endured, may not be working so well anymore. Take Brexit, for example. We were asked, as grown-ups, whether we wanted to remain within the EU. As grown-ups, most of us said no. As grown-ups, those who said yes, but lost, should acknowledge that, and as grown-ups, should abide by the decision. But oh no, they didn't think we were going to make a grown-up decision. They thought that we would make the childish and cowardly decision to remain in the warm bubble of the EU. We didn't. We acted like grown-ups and decided to go it alone, with all the sacrifices that might entail. And it will probably make us poorer. And so be it. But of course, this just couldn't be allowed to stand. These people have they've gone off the reservation. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. They were supposed to vote the way we told them to. And why is this such a problem? Well, if they act like grown-ups and don't vote the way we tell them, then there's no telling what else they might do. They might insist on using cash to buy stuff. They might reject the surveillance software in their cars. Jesus, they might even start tearing the cameras down. Disobedient children are easy to keep in line. You just have to bribe them with sweets and shiny things. But disobedient adults, 17.4 million disobedient adults. The Brexit vote wasn't so much a celebration of democracy as it was an acknowledgement of just being bloody grown up. Claret is the liquor for boys, wrote Samuel Johnson. Port for men. But he who aspires to be a hero must drink brandy. So what are we? Are we to sip on the claret, or even the lemonade for that matter, fed us by our keepers? Port then perhaps. No, we must drink brandy. The brandy of freedom. We must gorge ourselves on it, for we must aspire to be heroes. Because we must aspire to be heroes in order just to be free men.